All right, so on this episode of the Other Dodge Boys, I'm gonna go over why I made the switch to modified. Um, there's usually you think like you want to dominate one class before you move up to the other, and I think there's value in that. I think you should, prove yourself in the easier class to do for before you move up. But there's also to something you to also something to being in the class you want to be in. And the reason I chose sport mod at first was I just looked at the engine rules, and I was like just a really big fan of the LA, and that's what I wanted to run was an LA because I think of that as like the actual small block Mopar, because the Magnum goes to like a stud mounted rocker. Well, from the factory they're not, they're just a bolt down rocker, but once you go aftermarket, you run a stud rocker. So I always liked the idea of the LA better, just thinking of as a better design overall. But now, being around like real drive stuff a little more, I've come to realize that the Magnum stuff's definitely the way to go. It just outflows and outperforms, and it's just easier to do what you want with the Magnum. I mean, you got smaller stems, so they flow more there. Plus the design, the port design and the chamber design's better. And for IMCA mod, you have to run a Magnum based just because you have to run a stud mounted rocker, and it can't be an offset rocker, so you couldn't run W2s. So there's that, and it's just the engine rules are better for what I want to get into, I guess, for the mod, now that I'm a little more experienced in it. But basically, the engine rules is the biggest thing why I wanted to move to it. That's the number one thing for me. If I run IMCA, you can port the heads and stuff. So that's another thing where I can develop myself and become a better engine builder, is just porting heads, getting into that, getting more flow out of them, especially low lift flow numbers in a circle track engine. And if you can get an engine to hold together in a circle track application, you can get it to hold together in pretty much anything. So it's just another benefit to me, I feel like. And then I can also run the Gen 3 Hemi, which I love the Gen 3 Hemi platform. That's what I do like as a living, is like cam swaps on Gen 3 stuff, like Chargers, Challengers, new trucks, stuff like that. So that's how I make a living, and I end up with a bunch of extra parts, buying stuff off people, customers giving me stuff. So I also wanted to be able to incorporate that into circle track, because drag racing is pretty boring. So I like circle track. It's a lot more fun. You got 20 laps to do something instead of just going down the strip once. If something screws up, kind of screwed. You spin the tires, you're screwed. Circle track, spin the tires one lap, you can get it back the next. So yeah, Gen 3, that's another big reason why. That's probably more of a reason why than anything, is I want to be able to run the Gen 3 Hemi. I just think it's a really cool platform, and there's not really anyone running one yet in a dirt modified. Jody Cash, he has a Facebook page. It's Mopar Mafia Racing, and he has a Gen 3 Heavy. He ran it in a super late model, and then he has 3 asphalt late models, and I think one has a Gen 3 and the other 2 have small block based engines, small block Mopars. And so he's a really good person for information. He actually reached out to me and was talking to me, and he told me and sent me some pictures of the new distributor kit for the 09 Up VVT blocks. So that's really exciting. That's going to be a big thing as far as allowing it to run. I was just going to run it with like a micro squirt. So that's pretty cool. Pretty excited about that. Yeah, Burt, they made a coupler for it already, so I have that coupler. It's the same bell housing as a small block, so I already have that. That's you can find those used if you'd like, pretty easily. And then for IMC, I got to run a steel bell housing, and the Burt transmission actually has like a Saginaw or Muncie bolt pattern on the transmission face, so I can use my bell housing from last year that I ran in the sport mod. So that's another thing. So I got to buy a separate flywheel for the small block. Well, I had to buy one anyways because the crank flange isn't the same between small block and Gen 3. And so that pretty much is why, engine-wise, I wanted to switch to mod. And then suspension, I just think the mod's a lot more interesting, obviously. Like my car, the only thing that's not like factory GM is like where the spring buckets are in the rear and the spring bucket type in the front. It's adjustable on the front. And then the upper control arm, we can move those. But the lower control arms, factory GM, and the rear bars are factory GM also. And we run a 10-bolt GM. So you can move the spring buckets around and jack the weight around and stuff like that. So there's not a whole lot to learn. Not that I'm saying I knew it all, obviously. I didn't go out and dominate. I didn't even go out and win a race. But it's just the suspension's really cool on the mod, and I think it's pretty interesting to learn. There's way more stuff, obviously. And I think it'll be a fun challenge for myself to learn about it and figure it out and do all that. So I really like that part about it. If you're not challenging yourself every day, then you're not learning anything. So might as well do something that intrigues you, entices learning, gets your brain active. That's an important part of life. And then another thing is, I'm not from Texas. I got stationed here. I was in the Air Force, and I've been here for like 7 years. So I don't really know anyone here at the track. I park out by myself. I don't like go out of my way to meet new people. So it's just me and my wife. We're the ones who do everything to the car. She films my videos for me, and then I do everything to the car. And she'll like help in the shop and stuff, but she can't really run back and forth to like change a tire or something. So, which also, my wife, she's in the Air Force still. So if she ever gets orders to somewhere else, there's like a 99% chance that they run these type of cars. So that's another big thing, because I'm a Southern Sport mod, so it's again G-body GM based, and they don't really run those anywhere other than like Southern Oklahoma and Texas. And Louisiana runs them a little bit, but pretty much everyone's going to B mods, which is the same thing as like a Northern Sport mod. So that's pretty much what everyone's going to. So I'm trying to get rid of this car while they're still running them. They're pretty big in my area, West Texas, and then like Central Texas, DFW area. They're pretty big still. That's like probably the most popular class. And they got a couple different ones. They got Sport Mod, and then USRA calls them Limited Mods, and then there's Junior Limited Mods, and there's Econo Mods where they take the spoiler off them, but it's the same car. So it's still pretty big here. I should definitely be able to sell it, but if we do end up going somewhere else, I'll be able to run the mod anywhere other than if we go back home to New York, which they're actually starting an IMCA series up there, so maybe that'll take off. That'd be pretty cool to see that up there again. Because when I was a little kid growing up, my home track was like Can-Am Speedway. I'd go there every weekend, and they ran IMCA mods and Northeast mods and Sportsman mods. So they had all those, and then, I don't know, I was probably like 6 or 7 when they finally got rid of the class. It was steadily dying out every year. So yeah, there's that. And then another cool thing about the mod is like it's based off of Chevelle, the front clip is, but it's an AFCO front clip. And I don't have to run a GM rear end. I don't have to run a GM transmission. I didn't have to run a GM transmission in the Sport mod. It was just easier because I had 4 of them. And trying to find a 3-speed Mopar is pretty hard because you have to run a 3-speed. And the 904 runs a ton of power. I know some people say they don't. I ran a 904 and whatever the 3-speed Mopar is, the A230, I think it is. And it felt like 50 horsepower, like night and day difference between the two. So I would never put an automatic in a dirt car again after doing that. That was personal experience. Back-to-back weekends, it was completely different. So I mean, you can argue your point, but I'll stick with the manuals. And then with the mod, I can run a Burt or a Bryn or whatever. So that's a cool thing, is there's no GM parts on it, even though it is based off of Chevelle, but no part of this ever came from any GM factory, so I don't own anything GM on that. So I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of dorky because, I'm a Mopar guy, and people are probably like, who gives a shit? I give a shit. I think it's cool. So you get over it if that doesn't tickle your fancy. And another big thing, kind of what I got into earlier, is I don't really know anyone here. So I don't really have like help from anyone or know anyone, because everyone I know in New York runs Northeastern mods, and it's completely different than the sport mod. I mean, it's completely different than the modified also, obviously. But I don't really have any like 2D help. And like I've reached out to the manufacturer of this car. Um, this is a Clonch car, and I messaged them on Facebook, and I never heard anything back. And then like I had my car set up by someone, I paid someone. That definitely helped a ton. I definitely wouldn't have been where I was running at if I didn't do that. But there's still not like a ton of resources. Obviously, you can figure everything out yourself, but that takes time. And if I can replace time with spending some money, I'd rather do that. And that's why I got a Shaw. I was looking between Shaw, IRP, or GRT. Those are the big ones in my area. IRP is the only one actually in Texas. GRT and Shaw are in Arkansas. But everyone always talks about how great Shaw is about their customer service, and I can attend to that. I've called and bugged them about some pretty dumb stuff recently and buying stuff, and they always email me back. They call me. You know, I've bought stuff. He's called me the next day, say that he's sending it out, Kevin at Shaw. So I really appreciate that, and that's just a really cool thing, and they have setup sheets and all that stuff. So I have something to bounce off of and somewhere to start from, which I really like, because I grew up racing Neons. I have no clue about any of this stuff or what to do. You know, we'd put gas in them and we'd go race. So it's a huge step going from even a Neon to a sport mod, and then sport mod to this. Just a lot going on, and it's just nice to have someone you can call and talk to about it. So that's another reason for the mod, is there's just more support. You know, they run these all over the country. I don't know how many Shaws they've sold, but there's tons of them. You can probably type in Shaw anywhere in the country on Marketplace, and one will pop up for sale. So that's another really cool thing. And I mean, you go faster with them. On the slick tracks, the sport mods actually sometimes like a tenth or two faster, like the top sport mods, a tenth or two faster than the top modified. So the sport mods are sometimes faster on the super slick track, and I'm guessing that's just because of the tires and the spoiler. Obviously, it's not horsepower. But on the tacky tracks, the mods obliterate them, and I mean, you go faster. So, I mean, that's always a good thing. That's the whole goal of everything, is to go faster. And I just think that's another big thing, is like, if you're gonna spend a bunch of money either way, so you might as well be in the class you like. Like, I think the mods look cooler. I like the sail panels better. They look awesome going through the corner, all hiked up, you know, and like it just gets me excited watching them. And I want to be part of that. I want to be hiked up through the corner or carrying the left front a little bit. I just like, especially growing up in New York and watching Northeastern modifieds, they always hang the left front, and you know, it's just exciting to watch that. I think it's really cool. I mean, I don't know if everyone else likes watching it, but that's like, nothing got me more pumped as a little kid when someone's hanging the left front going around the corner like that. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. And maybe I should have outgrown that, but I love it. So yeah, I mean, going faster, they run them everywhere. The support is way better for them. And I can run 2 Mopar platforms, which is really cool, I think. And yeah, I mean, it'd probably be better for the YouTube channel, just because there's way more people who've run a Mopar and a modified than there's a Southern Sport mod. So that'll help out there. And, you know, hopefully people find more interest in it like I do, and we'll go from there. But I need to do more of these podcasts. So I need some people to message me and set some up, because I'm slacking, or I just get nervous and I don't message anyone about doing it. But I'll definitely do one next week. I'll probably do one with my dad, and we can talk about the Neons and setup and stuff, because there's a lot of people who still race Neons, and he has a ton of wins, and all from cars he's built. So I think that'll be pretty interesting to do. I know a lot of you guys are V8 guys, so most of you probably won't find it interesting, but you can learn something from everything. So I think that's what we'll leave off here. And like I said, if you want to get on here, we talk about Mopars, a dirt track race. That'd be pretty cool. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.